The disappearance of a man named Peter has puzzled police for more than 20 years. The last place he was seen was on a train, which should have made it easy for investigators to track him down. But there is a strange twist in this case that makes it so much stranger than it already is. And when he turned to get off, he noticed that the man sitting next to him had also gotten off at the previous station. That meant that there were no witnesses to his disappearance, because nobody had seen him leave the train. It was a normal morning, like any other. The year before, Peter had taken the same train from his home in Oberhausen, Germany, to his job at a local car parts factory. He got on the train as usual, sat down in his usual seat and dozed off as the train approached his stop. It was as if he had evaporated. There were no signs of a struggle in his apartment, and no ransom demands were ever made. Someone had been following him and waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. But who would want to kidnap an ordinary man like Peter? Peter didn't fit that description. He was a strong, healthy man in his prime, and he had no known enemies. Maybe he had made some enemies at some point in his life that wanted revenge. But if that were the case, wouldn't there be some evidence of it? Some kind of connection between his old life and his new one? Unfortunately, investigators were unable to find anything. This was strange because he had been sitting in a very visible spot and had not appeared to be asleep when the passengers had gotten off at their stops. Maybe he'd never boarded the train in the first place. Moreover, nobody had heard him get up or move during the journey. This could mean that he had never taken the train that morning, but there was evidence to the contrary. Peter was a train enthusiast, and would often take pictures of different models and post them on his blog. In fact, he had posted a picture of the exact same train just a few days before he disappeared, and no signs that Peter had planned to go anywhere else after getting off the train. Why would he have taken a new train when he was used to taking older models? Instead of trying to piece together what might have happened on the train, they focused on what might have happened after he got off. They even went through his trash to see if they could find any clues, but came up empty-handed. Perhaps he did it simply because he was curious, or maybe there was some other reason. He was last seen wearing his work uniform and carrying his lunch bag. He may have vanished forever, or he may be out there somewhere living under a false identity. Who knows? But the truth is that nobody knows what happened to him, and it is unlikely that we'll ever find out. He had no reason to change his clothes or leave his belongings behind. His wife told them that he had definitely taken the train that day, because he had left behind his lunch bag, which was always packed by her. When they checked the security footage at the train station, they found that Peter had indeed arrived there at the expected time. Sometimes the simplest explanations are the correct ones, and sometimes there are no explanations at all. Could there be some logical explanation for what happened to him? Some mundane reason that has nothing to do with aliens or time travel? He walked through the turnstiles and onto the platform, but when the train pulled up, he was nowhere to be seen, and Peter would never have missed his lunch, so why would anyone want to hurt him? He was always open and honest with those around him. If he had been involved in something illegal, he would not have been able to keep it hidden for long. Everyone in town knew him and trusted him, so it was unlikely that he had been involved in anything shady lately. His car was still parked in its usual spot, and his keys were left on the table. All of his personal belongings were still there, including his wallet and mobile phone. This led investigators to believe that he had not been the victim of a random attack. There are many questions, but few answers. So let us take a closer look at the details of this bizarre case to see if we can find some clues. Could it have something to do with the train that he was riding on the day he vanished? This is where things get really strange. When he woke up, he realized that he had missed his stop. How could someone just disappear without a trace? These are some of the questions that investigators have been trying to answer for over 20 years now. His wife told them that he had no reason to do so, and that he had not been acting strangely in the days leading up to his disappearance. They also checked his bank accounts and found that there had been no unusual activity. He had not withdrawn large sums of cash or transferred money abroad. In fact, he had not used his bank cards at all after he disappeared. So, where could he be? Was he even on the train in the first place? Or did he simply vanish into thin air? The problem with solving mysteries is that most of the time there aren't any clues to go on. Even in this day and age, with all of our fancy technology, sometimes the only thing we have to go on is a grain of salt. And that's why we need to use our imagination to come up with theories. We have to think outside the box, so to speak. We have to explore all possibilities. But what does this mean for the case of the missing man? What are the different theories about what could have happened to him? They have considered the possibility that he simply ran away from home, but there is no evidence to support this theory. Investigators also checked all the usual places that missing persons are found: shelters, hospitals, morgues, but there was no sign of Peter anywhere. Another theory is that he was abducted, but again, There is no evidence to support this either. If someone had come to his apartment specifically to abduct him, then they must have known something about his routine. There are many people out there who seem to take great pleasure in hurting others, but they usually target people who they perceive as being weak or vulnerable. Perhaps the answer lies in Peter's past. To make matters worse, Peter was not the type of person who kept secrets, so could there be another explanation for his disappearance? When investigators interviewed the other passengers on board the train, they found that nobody had seen Peter get off at his stop. All of this seemed to indicate that Peter had somehow vanished into thin air. But there is another possibility. Investigators checked the train S manifest and found that Peter S.'s name was not on the list of passengers. She also told investigators that Peter had been looking forward to taking that particular train, because it was supposed to be a new model that had just arrived in town. This led investigators to believe that Peter had been on the train, but where could he have gone? As far as investigators could tell, he had simply vanished. But what could possibly explain his disappearance? Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way. There are no witnesses, no security footage, no evidence of a struggle. The only thing that seems out of place is his choice of train. Investigators were unable to come up with any other theories, so they decided to take a different approach. They searched the area around his home, the train station, and his workplace, but found no sign of him. After more than 20 years, Peter's case is still unsolved. The case of the missing man serves as a reminder that even in this day and age, there are some mysteries that are beyond our understanding. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe and comment below with your thoughts on the case. Thank you for watching.